Hello, everyone, and welcome to this third episode of our Initiate Youth Talks. My name is Csinszka. I am the manager of a network called European Energy Transition East Meets West. And I am hosting this program every month where we dive deep into the Eastern European energy transition and get inspired by the generation of young professionals who will actually bring about the transition in the region. And today I'm very happy to be here with Viktoriia Unuchko from Ukraine. Hello, Viktoriia.
Hi, Csinszka. Thank you so much for inviting me and for this amazing opportunity to share my experience.
Lovely. Thank you, Viktoriia. First of all, please tell us a little bit more about your studies and your area of work.
Yes, sure. Well, my educational background is on international relations. During my master's studies in Ukraine and in Portugal, I focused mostly on energy security, climate change, adaptation, and sustainable development. My master's thesis was on energy security implications in the EU, Ukraine, and Russia triangle, focusing on Nord Stream 2 project and the securitization theory. But currently, I'm completing a sustainable finance course at the Frankfurt School of Business and Management. As for my professional experience, since the age of 19, I have been working in the international development sector in the European Union projects and the United Nations agencies and funds in Ukraine. In the year 2017, I had my first, I would say, introduction to the energy sector when I started my internship with the United Nations Development Program in Ukraine in the project on energy efficiency. But at that moment, I was just a media assistant, and I didn't realize that this sector will be my passion for the next few years. In 2018, I started work in UNDP as a full-time employee and was actively involved in the project implementation issues. Later on, I joined the United Nations Industrial Organization and its fund called the Private Finance and Advisory Network, where I provided consultations for private business developers from energy sector. And apart from it, later I joined also the Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition and the East Meets West initiative.
Viktoriia, you do seem to have some history of working in the energy and sustainability field. I wonder what motivates you as a young professional to work in this sector and to bring about the energy transition?
Oh, it's a great question. And, you know, from the very first day of my work, my desire to make the world more sustainable and resilient was a strong call to action. Firstly, as my educational background was not about energy, I wanted to learn as much as possible about this sector. And later, my motivation to make the energy sector in Ukraine more gender-friendly and stereotype-free was my main motivation. During my work in public and private sectors, numerous field missions and business trips to small communities all over Ukraine, I have personally experienced what women underrepresentation in the energy sector means. The energy sector in Ukraine and Central Asia is an extremely male-dominated since the Soviet Union times. So I think it's quite a severe barrier for long-lasting social change and reforming process in the energy field in these countries. And the second thing that I have personally faced in my career is that young people are rarely involved in the decision-making process. The most widespread stereotype for young people is lack of expertise. However, from my own experience, young people are the ones who bring fresh ideas and suggest innovative and non-standard approaches. Therefore, my motivation was just to overcome these barriers, share my own experience and knowledge to incentivize young people and especially women to join the energy sector in Ukraine and other countries of this region.
Lovely, and I'm sure you inspired a lot of us, also as women, to work in the sector. So you said that as a UN volunteer, you attended numerous field trips in Ukraine. Can you summarize what this tour made you learn about the energy sector in the country?
Well, yes, as I already said before, during my work in UNDP in Ukraine, I had numerous field missions to small and medium-sized communities all over Ukraine. And I would say that after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Ukraine inherited an over-centralized energy infrastructure that was reliant on fossil fuels. And at that moment, the lack of strategic vision and oversight mechanisms in the early 90s paved the way for the emergence of Ukrainian oligarchs who controlled various extractive industries and leveraged economic influence and ties with political leadership to undermine the quality of the Ukraine's energy governance. But still, I think that Ukraine has a great potential for sustainable energy growth in the future. Over the last few years, many private entities appeared in the energy market in Ukraine, but still state-owned enterprises remain central for energy production. But today, Ukraine aims to implement European Union directives in the national legislation and follow recommendations of the energy community, but still high dependency on natural gas consumption threatens Ukrainian energy security. But today, increased domestic production, reduced import dependence, and increased share of renewables in the overall energy mix of Ukraine, along with improved legal framework, will pave a great way and will create lots of opportunities for Ukraine to make the energy sector greener and more sustainable in future.
That's something very exciting to witness, I think. So now, as someone who has worked on the international stage and in Ukraine also, how do you see Ukraine's relationship with the EU? Recent news reported that Ukraine will join the EU Continental Power Transmission System, NSOE, which is a great step towards integrating the country into the European grid and harmonizing energy and climate policies. And also, what are the biggest challenges in Ukraine to overcome in order for the country to decarbonize?
The key factors for the future of the European Union and Ukraine relations and key challenges for Ukraine in the energy sphere are the following. First of all, Ukraine will have to strengthen energy independence from Russia. The country's electricity grid still works in sync with Russia and Belarus, while numerous dependencies of supply of nuclear fuel, coal, gas, oil, and other energy sources still exist. The second thing is that we will have to diversify energy supply. Ukraine should prioritize diversifying energy supply chains and integration in the EU and global energy markets. The next point here is that we will have to boost Ukrainian energy markets by building sustainable and competitive energy markets, including gas, heat, and electricity. The next thing is that we will have to intensify green transition and decarbonization efforts, as the EU is about to introduce new Green Deal regulations aimed at reducing carbon emissions. The Ukrainian energy policy is required to go through a significant reduction of carbon emissions and increase the share of green investments in green energy technologies. And the last thing here is that we will have to tackle at the same time geopolitical challenges we have, such as hedging the risks of the possible considerable reduction of Ukraine's gas transit role as the result of the Russia's Nord Stream 2 project that supplies natural gas to the EU bypassing Ukraine. So yeah, I guess these are the main points for the future of the EU and Ukraine relations in the energy sphere. Okay,
lovely. Well, so many challenges, also so many opportunities, for sure. Thank you so much for answering my questions. I have one extra one for you. I want to know if you have a favorite technology or a policy tool or something which can accelerate the energy transition, maybe especially in the Ukrainian context.
Yes, as Ukraine will have to diversify its energy sources in future, and I am a great defender of renewable energy. So I would like to focus on solar photovoltaic technology and wind turbines, as I have been working with two of these technologies in the framework of the private financing advisory network. So of course, Ukraine has its own pitfalls in this sphere when it comes to green tariffs regulation. But I still believe that renewable energy technologies, especially solar photovoltaic technology and wind turbines, will make the Ukrainian energy future safer and more sustainable.
I'm sure it will. Thank you so much, Viktoriia, for this very comprehensive interview. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. It was a pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you.